go back a little. Back, sort of stand with that.
Sorry guys.
So you guys to wait back here. Just pass bollards. Just go and say pass bollards. Just pass bollards.
If you are just joining us, a serious incident is unfolding here in Auckland's CBD this morning. Armed police have responded. There are a number of police cars, armed police, armed defender squad as well. We may have just heard gunshots too. Now, this is all unconfirmed. There are unconfirmed reports of a person in the area with a gun, but we're bringing you that news as things unfold, and we'll be keeping you up to date as well. A number of the public in the area have been told to stay indoors and avoid the area. Understandably, a lot of people have gathered wondering, what's going on this morning. It's a very busy area at this time in the morning, but police have tried to keep the public clear. As we heard those noises, which unconfirmed, but many people do believe we may have heard gunshots, we saw a number of armed police officers running down Quay Street. We're here nearby the PwC building as well, down by the Britomart terminal. So they were running down towards Commercial Bay side, and when we heard those noises, the Eagle helicopter meanwhile is hovering further back above us now. It was much closer. It was right up behind these buildings not long ago. So they've backtracked a little bit back, but they're still hovering in the area. We've still seen a number of armed police more arriving to the scene. What we do know at the moment is that a construction worker has been injured and was escorted by police, and the person's receiving first aid from several officers. Meanwhile, members of the public have been told to seek shelter in the HSBC tower as well. So that's what we know at the moment as things unfold here in Auckland CBD. Serious incident. We will be keeping you up to date. Of course, just to recap, we think we may have heard gunshots in the area. There's unconfirmed reports of a person with a gun in the area as well, and we've just seen a number of armed police running down here to my right towards behind the PwC building way. It's a bit unclear exactly where things are unfolding, but the whole area around here at the moment has been cordoned off as the public are asked to stay away. We've seen some shots as well of construction workers crouching behind furniture a few floors up as one construction worker has been injured. We can hear a number of police officers running up behind this police van here. Can hear a number of officers. Something's going on around here as some more armed police run back. We have very few details still at this stage, but we are going to keep you up to date with what we do know. We know there are unconfirmed reports of a gunman in the area. We believe we may have heard some gunshots earlier. I can see a police officer on the ground. We believe a police officer may have been shot. There's a number of officers and medics get to this officer. So what we think we may have just seen is a injured police officer. Yeah, we've seen so we believe a police officer has been shot and injured. He's just been run back with a group of other officers back behind the police van, and he is getting medical attention. He's accompanied by other officers in the armed defender squad. And the police officer is now being put into the ambulance. So what we understand is going on here as a serious incident unfolds in Auckland CBD. We've just seen a police officer being brought in by a group of officers to the ambulance here. He looked to be injured, potentially shot. We know there are unconfirmed reports of a gunman in the area. We believe we've just heard gunshots about 5-10 minutes ago as well. We can see a bunch of construction workers now being escorted out of the building. We know earlier that a construction worker was injured and escorted away by police. We also know a number of them were crouching and taking cover. We now see many of them being escorted out down the road. So the person that you would have just seen taken to the ambulance was a police officer who was clearly injured. We're not sure exactly what has happened at this stage, but he was escorted by a number of other officers as well and looks to be being taken away in the ambulance. We've also just seen a group of construction workers escorted out as well. We're just being told to move out further out the area, along with the rest of the public being told to avoid the area and move off. Things are still unfolding here in Auckland CBD as a serious incident unfolds. So we've just been told to move away from the area that we were at to join most of the public's been told to stay clear. There's plenty of cordons around here. Roads have been closed. Public are being told to move away. So we're just keeping you up to date with what we know as things unfold here. Some of the details are still unclear, but just to recap what's happened in the last 10 or so minutes, we believe to have heard gunshots just after 8 o'clock. Unconfirmed, but there is unconfirmed reports of a gunman in the area. So witnesses in the area are saying that they believe they also heard gunshots here. We have just seen a police officer as well taken into an ambulance behind me, clearly injured, escorted by a number of other officers as well. The ambulance that we saw earlier has just driven away, so we did see a injured police officer taken into that ambulance and he's been taken off the scene. We've also just seen a group of construction workers escorted down here back. They're actually gathered here behind the bus stop behind me, so they were escorted out by a number of armed police officers. You can hear more sirens in the distance, more officers arriving on the scene. We've just been told to move away and stay clear of this area. So this is down in Britomart by the ferry building in Auckland CBD as a serious incident unfolds here this morning. Just after 8 o'clock, we believe to have heard gunshots. A number of witnesses in the area also believe they were gunshots. This is all unconfirmed at this stage. We're just telling you what we know as things unfold here, but we do know that there is unconfirmed reports of a gunman in the area. What we have from St John's so far confirmed is that one patient is being treated for serious injuries and another for moderate injuries. We did just see an injured police officer escorted into an ambulance and taken away, and we do know that earlier a construction worker was also injured. The Eagle helicopter is just heading back up now. It's been hovering around the area this morning. Earlier it was actually right up close to one of these buildings, but since then it's just been hovering in the wider area here as police respond to a serious incident in Auckland's CBD. This morning we've seen a number of photos come in of construction workers taking shelter. We did see about 5 minutes or so ago a big group of construction workers being moved off and evacuated. They're just gathered here at a bus stop on the opposite side of the road. It is understood at this stage that multiple people may be hurt. The latest St John report is that a patient is being treated for serious injuries and another for moderate injuries. That is what we know so far in terms of injuries, but there may be more. We did just see, again to recap, a injured police officer taken away in an ambulance.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry, man.
I'm just knocking out the signature.
Can't we take the shots anymore?
If you are just joining us, there is a serious incident unfolding here in Auckland. It is understood multiple people might be hurt. We did recently, just to recap, see a large group of construction workers escorted out from a building. We understand that one was hurt earlier. From speaking to some of the construction workers here, one said that he actually encountered a gunman on the stairs. They were on the 14th floor. We do understand that there was a gunman here in the area earlier. He said that the man ran up the stairs floor by floor wielding a gun. That comes from one of the construction workers here in the area, one of the many that have been escorted out from the building. If you are just joining us, there are a number of armed police, Defender Squad police cars here in Auckland's CBD as a serious incident unfolds. We did, in the last 20 minutes, hear gunshots, from what we understand, probably about 4 or 5 gunshots. Shortly after, we're just being escorted further back here now, shortly after we heard those shots, we did see an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance. These are all unconfirmed at this stage. This is just what we've seen as things unfold here in Britomart. So we're just being told to walk further away from the area. The police are trying to keep the public obviously outside from this area, telling people to avoid the area and stay indoors. The police Eagle helicopter, as you can see, is just circling back around, staying in the area. It was earlier on much closer to the buildings here in Britomart, but it's just hovering around the outside now. We have just received some official word and statement from police. They say the serious incident in Auckland CBD this morning is currently contained to a building on Lower Queen Street, which is currently under construction. Police ask all members of the public to avoid the Lower Queen Street area and for those in downtown inner city buildings to remain inside their buildings at this time. They say this is a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding. A large police presence will remain in the area, and police say they'll provide further update as soon as they are in a position to do so. So that is the most up-to-date statement we have from police on this incident as things unfold here in Auckland City. If you can see 3 armed offender squad officers there running down, we've got still a number of armed police officers in this immediate area. If you just look off to behind me, we've got the large group of construction workers by the bus stop here. So they were just recently escorted out from the building, and that in the latest statement that we got from police on this serious incident in Auckland CBD, they say that it's currently contained to a building in Lower Queen Street, which is under construction. So hence why we have all the construction workers here. They've just been escorted out. We know that a construction worker was injured earlier as well. We don't have any details at this stage on their condition. We did just see an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance before, and just after 8 o'clock what we believe were a number of gunshots in the area as well.
I run. I ran over here. Yes. Yeah. At 7. At 7. When there were no calls, no helicopter. I was at 7 before the shooting, before the police coming.
Yeah.
And I saw the construction workers with, the faces. Their faces, they're a little bit sad and shocked. And I feel that there was something wrong with the construction workers. Yeah. And I couldn't guess what happened.
So were you in the area when you saw this happen?
I ran.
Yeah.
I ran over here to the wharf, and then I heard the helicopters.
Yeah. So you were a witness in the area when things were unfolding?
Yes. I was here for 1 hour now. I've been here for 1 hour now.
Can you tell me a bit more about what you saw?
Well, when I got by, I saw the faces of construction workers here. It was dark. Everything here it was dark, and I felt that, wow, they were a little bit shocked, but I don't know what happened. A little bit shocked and a little bit sad.
And how are you feeling here with this unfolding?
Now? Well, I'm just curious. I'm just curious of what happened, and I saw the riot police coming, so I felt that, well, more and more serious, maybe a hostage situation. And I heard gunshot too.
Yes. Yeah.
2 or more.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
As you will have just heard, I've just spoken to a witness who didn't want to appear on camera, but you would have been able to hear his quotes. He was here early this morning and he saw a number of the construction workers as things were unfolding. He also said he'd heard a number of gunshots in the area as well as things unfold here. A serious incident in Auckland City.
Hoje não trabalha não, ninguém trabalha hoje não. Com certeza, estão afastando a gente mais e mais. Please go back. Não deixa ele entrar não.
Hey guys, can we keep moving back please? Let's go. Oh, you will ship them? Oh, are you ever?
So the public is just being asked to move back further from the area from where we were earlier here as a serious incident continues to unfold here in Auckland City.
Hey guys, behind the cordon, behind the cordon. You can come to the cordon once it's done. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Something definitely serious.
If you are just joining us this morning, a recap on what's been happening. So armed police have swarmed on Auckland's CBD after reports this morning of a gunman in the area near Britomart, and there are fears that multiple people had been injured. There are unconfirmed reports of a person with a gun in a building site in the area. We did hear gunshots here at around 10 past 8 this morning. I have spoken to a few witnesses here as well who have described distress and anxiety over everything that's been unfolding here this morning. One distressed construction worker did tell us as well that he encountered the gunman on the stairs of a property that's under development. There are still multiple offices here in Quay Street near Britomart. The public's been told to stay indoors and avoid Lower Queen Street. This is close to the ferry terminal building, Commercial Bay as well. As you can see, still a number of armed police officers in the area. This area has also just recently been cordoned off, so we've been asked to move back and out of the area. We've seen the Armed Defender Squad as well. The Eagle helicopter was here this morning. Can't seem to see it anymore, but it was right up close into these buildings and before heading out further away and hovering for some time before leaving the scene. At least one construction worker has been injured and was escorted from the scene by police this morning. We did see one police officer injured taken away in an ambulance. We still don't have any details around exactly how many people have been injured or on the state of those people and of the officer that we saw as well being escorted by fellow officers into that ambulance earlier. And that happened just after we heard a number of gunshots, around 4 to 6 gunshots, just after 8 o'clock, before we saw a group of police officers running back from the building and to the ambulance. In terms of how this has affected the wider area, a number of roads have been closed and Fullers have said that all ferry services have been suspended until further notice as well, causing quite the disruption here in Auckland City on a busy weekday morning. Police have been telling people to go home. They've cordoned off the area, so earlier there were a large group of the public gathered. We've since been pushed back further away from the main ferry building as well. Police have continually asked the public to move on and to stop crowding around the scene here. They said that they're locking the area down with a number of roads in the area now closed as well. In the latest statement that we've got from police, they said that a serious incident in Auckland CBD this morning is currently contained to a building in Lower Queen Street, which is under construction. Police have asked all members of the public to avoid the Lower Queen Street area and for those in downtown inner city buildings to remain inside their buildings at this time. They said that this is a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding. A large police presence will remain in the area and police say they'll provide further update as soon as they're in a position to do so. Some key points to recap from this morning. Gunshots have been heard with reports of a gunman in the building under construction in downtown Auckland. Multiple officers are currently in Quay Street near Brito Mart and the public is being told to stay indoors and avoid the area. We know that at least 2 people have been injured. Police are sheltering inside the HSBC building as police warn of a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding. Those are some of the key points from what's been unfolding here in Auckland City this morning.
fast.
If you are just joining us, there's been a serious incident unfolding here in Auckland this morning. Some of the details are still unclear, but we can tell you what we do know so far and go through some of those key points to recap what has happened this morning. So gunshots have been heard amid eyewitnesses. We heard multiple gunshots just after 8 o'clock this morning, and there are reports of a gunman in a building which is under construction here in downtown Auckland. Multiple officers are currently here on Quay Street. As you can see behind me, police cars, armed police officers as well. The Eagle helicopter was hovering around the area for some time, just recently has moved away from the scene. We know that at least 2 people have been injured, but we understand that there have been more injuries as well, still unconfirmed. People are sheltering inside the HSBC building as police warn of the significant incident, with multiple emergency services responding. We did have an update from police earlier, and they said that a large police presence will remain here on the scene this morning as we still find out some of those details about what's been going on. We heard gunshots, as I mentioned earlier on. We did see an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance. We still don't know exactly, of the injuries or his state. He was walking and he was aided by a group of other police officers and quickly taken away in an ambulance. St John have confirmed at least 2 people have been injured, one in a serious and one in a moderate condition, but we understand that there have been more injuries as well here this morning. We saw a group, and there is still actually a group of construction workers behind me that were evacuated from the building. And I spoke to a witness as well who said he was here earlier in the morning. He said it was still quite dark when things were unfolding. He described seeing the faces of the construction workers. That's the way that he described it to me, that he said that they looked distressed and panicked, and he said that's when he knew something was wrong. He said he had remained in the area for some time as things unfolded, but he was saying that it was just a horrible feeling of anxiety that something wasn't quite right as things were unfolding here this morning. Mayor has said that he understands the shooter is dead, as information is still coming in for us. Said that there's been quite a few briefings from Auckland Transport as well. Many of the roads in the area have been closed this morning, and the ferries as well are not running at the moment. Again, some of those key points that we know from things unfolding here in Auckland CBD. Gunshots have been heard. There are reports of a gunman in a building that's under construction here in downtown Auckland. And multiple officers still here. As you can see, there are a number of police cars behind me and still a number in front of me as well, all lined up. The roads around the area have been blocked off. We've seen the armed defenders squad as well running up and down and into some of these buildings too, and the police Eagle helicopter, which has just recently left the scene. So we'll be keeping you up to date as things continue to unfold here in Auckland with the details that we do have. Just a bit more on that latest statement that we have had from police. As mentioned, a lot of things are still to be confirmed, but what police have said to us is that a serious incident in Auckland CBD this morning is currently contained to a building in Lower Queen Street, which is under construction. Police have asked all members of the public to avoid the Lower Queen Street area, and for those in downtown inner city buildings to remain inside their buildings at this time. We've also since seen this cordon being put in place and the public moved further away from the area. Police say that this is a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding. They say a large police presence will remain in the area and police will provide further updates when they're in a position to do so. That is from the latest statement from police from this morning's situation. As far as we know, there are three people in a serious condition and 3 in a moderate condition. St John have just told us that ambulance crews have treated 3 patients with serious injuries and 3 patients in moderate injuries. That is what we have in terms of the confirmed injuries here this morning. As you can see, that group of construction workers are now being escorted towards the ferry building end here on Quay Street. They were escorted out of the building earlier and were huddled here by a bus stop. They're now being escorted off the scene from what we can see. We know that a construction worker was injured this morning. We've spoken to a few of those construction workers. One said that they actually encountered a gunman coming up the stairs of the building. Another witness that I spoke to told me that he saw the construction workers this morning and described to me their faces in shock, anxiety.
Construction workers are going down this side.
Just getting some better shots here for you to see that group of construction workers walking down the cycle lane towards a bunch of ambulances down the other end of the street.
Morning. Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, what are you doing out here? Retired. I don't blame you.
We've just seen another police van pulling up to the scene towards the direction where the group of construction workers, who were all evacuated from the building, have walked towards. A bit hard to see from where we are exactly what's going on down that end, but I did see a number of ambulances down there as well, among other police cars and police vans as well. In terms of what we do know this morning, police have confirmed that the serious incident in Auckland CBD is currently contained to a building in Lower Queen Street, which is currently under construction. Police are continuing to ask members of the public to avoid the Lower Queen Street area and those in downtown inner city buildings to remain inside their buildings at this time. We have also just had an update from St John. They say ambulance crews have treated 3 patients with serious injuries and 3 patients with moderate injuries. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, has cancelled his travel to Hamilton and is now on his way back to the Beehive. He will be briefed by officials on the latest information regarding the incident and will provide comment following that. From what we've seen here unfold this morning, just after 8 o'clock, we heard a number of gunshots. Shortly after, we did see an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance. They say at least 2 people have been injured and sheltering inside the HSBC building. That's where police had escorted people out of the area when things were unfolding earlier. There is still a number of armed police here cordoning the area off. Roads have been closed, ferries have been cancelled. As you can see, the long line of police cars out here in front of me and many more behind us as well, with ambulances. At the far end, a number of police vans too.
You're right now, you're good.
If you're just joining us, we'll run through a few more of those key points here for you as things have unfolded this morning in Auckland. A serious incident here in Auckland CBD. So gunshots have been heard just after 8 o'clock and reports of a gunman in a building that's under construction in downtown Auckland. Multiple officers are still here on Quay Street near Brudoma. As you can see, we're estimating around 20 police cars here on scene. St John have said that the ambulances have treated 3 people in a serious condition and 3 in a moderate condition, but there may still be more people injured. We did see an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance just after 8 o'clock when we did hear those 5 or 6 gunshots in quick succession just after 8 this morning. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's cancelled his travel to Hamilton. He's on his way back to the Beehive and he will be briefed by officials and will provide a comment shortly.
Good morning to you guys. Well, this morning around 7:20 local time, New Zealanders woke up to reports of an active shooter here in the central business district of Auckland. We're standing at the moment on Quay Street, right down on the front of the water here, with significant site. Now this morning, the construction workers were on site at that scene when one construction worker reported that two men armed with shotguns came into the building and caused basic mayhem and panic on the floors. Everybody scattered, some to the rooftops. We had helicopter pictures earlier of men cowering on the rooftops with one police officer there giving them cover. Others escaped from the building, assembled down the basement of the building over here. The police quickly moved in with astonishing speed. I've got to say, I've never seen so many semi-automatics on a police force so quickly on such an incident. They were here within moments and quickly taped off the 2 blocks around the building. I'm surprised we're this close as we are now, but right now they're trying to contain the scene. We've been told that 3 people have been seriously injured, 3 people moderately injured. And I should also emphasise that just across the way from this building, not more than 200 metres away, is the live fan site for the soccer World Cup, the football World Cup, which begins, in fact, in New Zealand before kick-offs in Sydney tonight. The Ferns versus Norway.
Just an update on what's going on here. Things have been relatively quiet for the past half an hour. The Police Eagle helicopter has moved away from the scene. The cordon has been extended. We've been pushed back further away from where things unfolded this morning. Some key points from what has happened. Gunshots were heard just after 8 o'clock, shortly after we saw an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance. St John's say that ambulances have responded to 3 people in a serious condition and 3 in a moderate condition this morning. Police are yet to confirm further details, but in their most recent statement, they said that the serious incident is currently contained to a building in Lower Queen Street, which is under construction. Police have asked all members of the public to avoid Lower Queen Street and for those in downtown inner city buildings to remain inside their buildings at this time. They say that this is a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding and that a large police presence will remain in the area. They say that police will provide further updates as soon as they are in a position to do so. The Prime Minister's trip to Hamilton's been diverted. He's headed back to the Beehive and he is being briefed on the situation and will likely provide an update shortly. Just to confirm that St John has confirmed ambulance crews have treated 3 patients with serious injuries and 3 patients with moderate injuries. We understand that among those injured, a construction worker who was injured early this morning and was escorted by police. We saw a large group of the construction workers escorted back down the road. They've headed off further away from us towards where we saw a number of ambulances. There are at least 20 to 25 police cars stacked up here on Quay Street in Auckland's CBD.
Oh, sorry. You doing a live shot with a talent, or you having somebody on camera, or no? No. What is the footage?
That's weird. It's almost like it is Australian. Well, I mean, Taryn was your fault, so. No, wait, not a tripod. So yours will be better, bro. It's an Australian conspiracy. One second. Warriors going too well. No? Just want to bring us down. That's it. That's for other reason. That's a conspiracy.
things have quietened down a little bit here this morning since we arrived on the scene just before 8 o'clock as a serious incident unfolded here in Auckland's CBD. So let me run you through a few key points from what we do know that's happened this morning. It is understood at this time that one person has died at the scene after a gunman stormed a building under construction just behind me here. In around Brito Mart area in Auckland CBD. Multiple people are hurt, including one police officer who we actually saw just after 8 o'clock being escorted by other officers into an ambulance. Around that time, we also heard a number of gunshots in quick succession. That just after 8 o'clock this morning, before seeing that injured police officer taken away in the ambulance. We also, since then, saw a large group of construction workers escorted down here by the bus stop. They were escorted by police. Since then, they've been moved back behind me to where a number of ambulances are down on the other end of the street here. As you can see, there are around 20 plus police cars lined up on the street here, and many more in front of me here as well. We've got a number of police vans and ambulances. Armed police are on the scene. They've now cordoned this area off and they've moved the public further out away from where the incident unfolded. Now, a series of gunshots were heard, as I said, shortly after 8 o'clock. Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown says he believes the gunman is dead. That's not confirmed. That's just come from the mayor. We do have a statement from police, so this is what we know from police so far. They say that a serious incident in Auckland CBD this morning is currently contained to a building in Lower Queen Street under construction, which you can just see behind me. Police are asking all members of the public to avoid the Lower Queen Street area, and for those in downtown inner city buildings to remain inside their buildings at this time. They say that it's a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding, and they say that a large police presence will remain in the area. They say that they will provide further updates and information when they're in a position to do so. Now, we got that statement around an hour ago. We haven't had any updates since then. What we know from St John is they say ambulance crews have treated 3 patients with serious injuries and 3 patients with moderate injuries, and we have just heard that and understand that one person has died at the scene here this morning after a gunman stormed the building that is under construction here in downtown Auckland. We'll be keeping you up to date as things unfold. It's been relatively quiet for the past half an hour or so, but we'll keep feeding you information as things develop. We're now going to throw to a video from this morning where we believe to hear some of those gunshots that we heard earlier this morning.
It's crazy. Something's going down. It's pretty major. There's gunshots at the window. Queen Street. It's all on. Bloody hell.
That video that you've just seen, credit to Kent Harrison who shared that video with us from this morning. You will have heard a number of gunshots in that video. We also heard a number of gunshots here just after 8 o'clock this morning in downtown Auckland, where a serious incident has unfolded. As you can see, we still have all the police cars and police officers as well here lining the streets. We've had very little information since that last statement that came in just after 8 o'clock from police. expecting more to be revealed shortly, but at the moment those are the key points that we know. That is what we know here that has happened on the scene, what we've seen as well. We do understand now that one person has died at the scene after a gunman stormed the building. Multiple people are hurt. St John have confirmed to us that 3 are in a serious condition. We also saw an injured police officer this morning taken away in an ambulance after hearing a number of gunshots. That's just after 8 o'clock this morning.
also that one of those injured, potentially seriously, was a police officer who raced into the scene. And we've taken this issue here. This is the Deloitte building at the structural site there. There's one gun, a shotgun, works on that site, causing maintenance panic inside, the workers inside, so at least tons of construction workers scattered inside. There are reports
If you're just joining us, you'll see a number of police cars lined up in front here after a serious incident unfolded in Auckland's CBD this morning. Armed police swarmed the area after reports of a gunman at a building under construction near Britomart. There are fears there are multiple people injured. We've been down here since just before 8 o'clock. At around 10 past 8, we heard a number of gunshots in quick succession shortly after a group of police officers and armed defenders squad running back away from the building. And we did see one police officer who was visibly injured taken away in an ambulance. In some of the latest statements that we have, St John Ambulance says so far 2 people have been confirmed hurt. We heard since then, though, that it may have been 3 people in a serious condition and 3 in a moderate condition. We are still awaiting a number of details to be confirmed, and the latest police statement we had was about an hour ago, or just over an hour ago. So we've not had any more information since then. In that statement, they said they confirmed that the serious incident had happened, but it was currently contained to a building in Lower Queen Street, which is under construction. They asked all members of the public to avoid the Lower Queen Street area, and for those in downtown inner city buildings to remain inside their buildings at the time. Now, a number of roads around this area have been closed, buses cancelled, trains cancelled, even the ferries have been cancelled. So the public have been asked to stay away from this area this morning. Police said in that statement just after 8 o'clock that they said it was a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding. They said a large police presence would remain in the area and police would provide further updates as soon as they were in a position to do so. We have not yet had another update from police since then. St John have said ambulance crews have treated 3 patients with serious injuries and 3 with moderate injuries. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has cancelled his travel to Hamilton and is on his way back to the Beehive. He will be, or is currently being briefed by officials on the latest information. We do expect to hear comment from the Prime Minister later this morning. It is also understood that more than 1 person has died at the scene. We are still waiting for confirmation on these details, but that is what we know so far here in Auckland City. There are more than 20 police cars still parked up here, police vans, ambulances, and a number of armed police officers around the cordoned off area. As many people will know, today is the day that the FIFA Women's World Cup kicks off. Some of the teams are actually staying in one of the hotels a couple buildings down from where things unfolded this morning. There are a number of international media here as well. I've spoken to a few of them myself, and many of them just shocked at what's unfolded here this morning. I also spoke to a witness this morning who said he was outside the building when things unfolded. He said it was still quite dark at the time, and the way he described it to me was seeing the shock and fear on the faces of the construction workers who were working in the building. He said that there was just a sense of panic and anxiety in the air. He started to run away from the area where things were happening in the building, and he hovered around downtown to see as things were unfolding, but he said to me that he just felt very uneasy about everything, and it was just a very chaotic morning in his words. We are also now reporting that the shooter was wearing a monitoring bracelet. That's in one of the latest updates that we've able to report. We can also say that the gunman is reported to be a 24-year-old. So that's some of the latest information we're just getting through here, that the gunman was wearing a monitoring bracelet and believed to be 24 years old. Just a bit more on FIFA. As we mentioned before, the Women's World Cup is kicking off today. The US women's football team spokesperson who was staying at the Esso near Britomart said all of the players and staff are accounted for and safe, and their security team is in communication with local authorities and are proceeding with their daily schedule. They're just one of a number of teams that are actually staying around the area where things unfolded this morning. In some more of those latest updates that we've had just come through, we understand that the shooter is dead. Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown earlier said this morning he understood that the shooter was dead. We are now reporting that we understand the gunman is dead. We also understand that he was wearing a monitoring bracelet and believed to be just 24 years old. We know that one person has died at the scene. That is still unconfirmed. These are reports that, unconfirmed reports, we're still waiting for more police word on exactly what's happened this morning, but we understand that more than one person has died at the scene this morning. St John, in their most recent update, told us that there were 3 people in a serious condition and 3 in moderate. We did see earlier as well an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance right after a number of gunshots were heard in the area. Just to run through a few more of those key points as things are updated. It's understood that more than one person has died at the scene after a gunman stormed a building under construction. Multiple people are hurt, including at least one police officer. We did see that police officer being taken away by an ambulance shortly after 8 o'clock this morning. Armed police swarmed on the building near Britomart as the city centre was locked down, with people sheltering inside nearby buildings this morning as things unfolded. A series of gunshots were heard shortly after 8 a.m. In Auckland, Mayor Wayne Brown says he believes the gunman is dead. We've also just reported that we understand he was wearing a monitoring bracelet and believed to be 24 years old. St John Ambulance now says it's so far treated 6 people for injuries. We understand that 3 are in a serious condition and 3 in a moderate condition. A number of the roads around this area have been closed. The buses, trains and ferries have all been cancelled this morning. Auckland Transport say they're working closely with police to manage traffic and funnel customers away from the area. Britomart west side is closed, downtown ferry terminal is closed and ferries won't be docking, but they will be circling until it is safe to dock. We don't quite know exactly when that will be yet though. Bus diversions are being put in place, and Auckland Transport say they're in the process of stopping any further trains from coming into Britomart this morning. They too say they'll update as further information comes to hand. Just to update that quickly, it appears the downtown ferry terminal is now open. But a number of roads are still closed around the area. Trains are running, but the entrance to Britomart station is closed. Auckland Central MP Chloe Swarbrick has told us that the shooting was an unfolding situation and also urged people to stay away from downtown Auckland. She said that she was in regular communication with the local police area commander and the head of St John. She expressed her deepest gratitude to those on the front line. Swarbrick was also communicating with Prime Minister Chris Hipkins' office, who is currently in Wellington. Chris Hipkins, Prime Minister, was set to go to Hamilton today but was diverted back to the Beehive and is being briefed on the situation. We expect to hear from the Prime Minister at some stage this morning to give an update on things, on how things have unfolded here. We are reporting that the gunman was wearing a monitoring bracelet and is believed to have been 24 years old. It's also believed, but unconfirmed, that the gunman is dead. We're still waiting on further word from police. Their most recent statement came in just after 8 o'clock. They said that the situation was contained. They asked all members of the public to avoid the area and said that it's a significant incident with multiple emergency services responding. They confirmed that a large police presence would remain in the area and that they would provide further update as things progressed.
If you want that one, I can share mine too.
We can now confirm that the Prime Minister will be holding a stand-up at 10:15.
Surrounded by like 4 stuff or something. I think they have more stuff.
We have just had an update from police on the situation that's unfolded here in Auckland. Literally, it's just come in, so I'm going to read exactly what we've heard. Just top of line, 3 people have been confirmed dead. Police say they've contained a serious incident that unfolded at a construction site in Auckland's CBD this morning. Multiple injuries have been reported, and at this stage they can confirm 2 people have died. The male offender is also deceased, so confirming that the gunman is dead. The incident unfolded after reports of a person discharging a firearm inside the site on Lower Queen Street at around 7:22 a.m. this morning. A significant number of police responded and cordoned off the area. The Police Eagle helicopter was also deployed and provided oversight. The offender has moved through the building site and continued to discharge his firearm. Upon reaching the upper levels of the building, the male has contained himself within the elevator shaft, and our staff have attempted to engage with him. Further shots were fired from the male, and he was located deceased a short time later. Details around what has exactly occurred are still emerging, and police will continue to provide updates around injuries and the circumstances. They say what's unfolded is understandably alarming, and they're reassuring the public that this incident has been contained and is an isolated incident. So that is the latest statement that we've just had from police. Just to confirm, 3 people, including the shooter, have died here this morning as this incident has unfolded in Auckland CBD. Just to add to that police statement, they say that details are still emerging, but the police can advise that this is not a national security risk. Police are now commencing an investigation into what's occurred this morning. Cordons remain in place, and they say they're continuing to ask the public to stay away from the area as work continues. Updates will continue to be provided this morning, and police will also be fronting an update this afternoon. The Prime Minister will be holding a press conference soon, which we will be crossing to. That's expected at around 10:15.
When the New Zealand police say that
Just to recap on some of the latest information that's just landed, police have confirmed 3 have died this morning. One of them has been the gunman. Police say that they've contained the serious incident that unfolded at a construction site in Auckland CBD this morning. Multiple injuries have been reported, and at this stage, police confirmed 2 people have died. The male offender is also deceased. They say that the incident unfolded after reports of a person discharging a firearm inside the site on Lower Queen Street at around 7:22 this morning. A significant number of police responded and cordoned off the area. As you can see, police remain on the scene. There are more than 20 police cars here, and armed police have cordoned off the area. In the latest police statement, they say the offender moved through the building site and continued to discharge his firearm. Upon reaching the upper levels of the building, the male's contained himself within the elevator shaft, and their staff have attempted to engage with him. Further shots were fired from the male, and he was located deceased a short time later. Now, police say that details around exactly what's occurred here this morning are still emerging, and police will continue to provide updates around injuries and the circumstances. They say that what's unfolded is understandably alarming. They can advise, though, that this is not a national security risk. Police are now commencing an investigation into what's occurred this morning. Cordons remain in place, and police are continuing to ask the public to stay away from the area as their work continues. They say that updates will continue to be provided, and police will front media this afternoon. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Chris Hipkins is set to address the media at about 10:15 this morning from the Beehive after being briefed by officials.
this or
But like,
so you said McKean? Chris McKean? Awesome. Well, that sounds great, man. Cool. Thanks, Chris.
Just an update here in Auckland after a serious incident unfolded this morning. We will be crossing live shortly to the Beehive where the Prime Minister will be giving an update. We're expected to hear from the Prime Minister at around 10:15, so in about 15 minutes' time. In the latest police statement, they confirmed that 3 people have died, including the gunman. Police say they've contained the serious incident that unfolded here in Auckland CBD this morning after reports of a person discharging a firearm inside a building that's under construction at around 7:22 a.m. this morning. They say that a significant number of police have responded and cordoned the area off. As you can see, this whole area has been cordoned off. There is still a number of police cars and armed police officers in the area. In the police statement, where they outlined exactly what they understand has happened this morning, they say that the offender had moved through the building site and continued to discharge his firearm, and upon reaching the upper levels of the building, the male contained himself within an elevator shaft and their staff had attempted to engage with him. Further shots were fired from the male and he was located deceased a short time later. So that's in the latest police statement that we've had. Police say that this is not a national security risk and they are now commencing an investigation. They say that there are still some details that they're looking into and that they will be providing more details as things become clearer and their investigation continues here. We are expected to hear from police in a media stand-up later this afternoon. We'll hear from the Prime Minister in the next 15 minutes or so live from the Beehive, which we will cross to. But in terms of how things have been here this morning and probably the last hour, things have definitely quietened down a little bit. We still have this police cordon here and officers around the area, police cars. There's been very little movement. We haven't seen much going on since we were asked to move back further away from the building. We did see the large group of construction workers who were all evacuated from the building moved off further back down the street towards where we saw some ambulances. It's now confirmed 3 people have died, one of them being the gunman. We did see an injured police officer taken away earlier as well in an ambulance after we heard a number of gunshots just after 8 o'clock this morning. We'll keep you up to date and we will be crossing live to the Beehive to hear from Prime Minister Chris Hipkins shortly.
Downtown Auckland, we're on Key Street here, the central CBD area. That's the corner of Queen Street, where the building that has been reported in multiple political sites as well. Right, guys, a 24-year-old gunman who was wearing electronic monitoring bracelet entered the building around 7:20 a.m. As for further information on his identity, we don't have that yet. But I imagine we'll be releasing that later on as we find out a little bit more about who he was. We know
Check, check, 1 2, check 1 2. Check, check, 1 2, check 1 2. This is the
A cordon is still in place here in Auckland CBD, where a serious incident has unfolded this morning. In police's most recent statement, they said 3 people have died, 1 being the gunman. We are expected to hear from Prime Minister Chris Hipkins shortly, and we'll be crossing to him live. He's expected to be fronting media at 10:15, so as soon as he is speaking, we will cross to him and he will be providing an update on what has unfolded here in Auckland this morning. In terms of what's been happening on the ground, it's been relatively quiet for the last hour and a half. We arrived on scene just before 8 a.m. this morning when a number of gunshots were heard. We saw an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance. A large group of construction workers evacuated from the building where things unfolded and taken back towards another group of ambulances. Since then, the police cordon here has been put in place and armed police officers have remained at least between 20 and maybe even 30 police cars are still here on the scene. The roads around the area remain closed as well as we await further information. We're expected to hear from Prime Minister Chris Hipkins live from the Beehive shortly.
Yo, hello, is it up and running? I've plugged it. Oh, sweet.
We are expected to hear from Prime Minister Chris Hipkins shortly from the Beehive. He was headed to Hamilton today before he was turned around back to Wellington as things unfolded here in in Auckland. He was then briefed by officials and he's expected to address media shortly. Things have remained relatively quiet here this morning after the incident unfolded. For the past hour and a half, police have just been patrolling this cordoned off area. Police cars have stayed in place. There's been very little movement from what we've seen. The most recent movement we saw was the group of construction workers who were evacuated, and they were headed back towards an ambulance this morning. Since then, police have released a statement saying that 3 people have died. One was the gunman. And we will be hearing from the Prime Minister very shortly, and we will cross live to the Beehive. Police are expected to do a stand-up this afternoon where they'll provide an update on any more information on what happened this morning, but in their most recent statement they said 3 people have died, one was the gunman. Police on the scene remain armed, and we saw armed offender squad this morning as well. There are a number of police vans down the other end, and police cars still blocking the road down here near Britomart in Auckland CBD.
Oh, no, just from the cafe there.
Kia ora koutou. This morning at 7:23 a.m, a witness called police to report a man with a gun shooting in central Auckland at a building on Lower Queen Street. At 7:34 a.m, police arrived on the scene and the armed defenders squad arrived there 4 minutes later. It's with deep sorrow that I can confirm that 2 people have been killed. At this stage, I'm aware that 6 others have been injured, including police. They've been taken to Auckland Hospital. Police have also confirmed that the shooter is also dead. The assessment from officials is that there is no national security risk. There is no change to New Zealand's national security threat level. This is the information that we're able to share so far. The offender was armed with a pump-action shotgun. He moved through the building site, discharging the firearm as he went. Upon reaching the upper levels of the building, the man contained himself in an elevator. Shots were fired and he was located a short time later. I want to thank the brave men and women of the New Zealand Police who ran into the gunfire straight into harm's way in order to save the lives of others. These kind of situations move fast, and the actions of those who risk their lives to save others are nothing short of heroic. I also want to acknowledge the ambulance first responders who were there quickly on the scene this morning. This is still an ongoing police operation, and I've got limited further information that I can provide at this time. Police will be providing further updates during the day. Shortly I'll be leaving to travel to Auckland to join Police Commissioner Andrew Costa, who is also on his way to the scene. Clearly, with the FIFA World Cup kicking off this evening, there are a lot of eyes on Auckland. The government's spoken to FIFA organisers this morning, and the tournament will proceed as planned. I want to reiterate that there is no wider national security threat. This appears to be the actions of one individual. Aucklanders and those watching around the world can be assured that the police have neutralised the threat and that they are not seeking anybody else in relation to the incident. New Zealanders' safety and the safety of our visitors is our first priorities. Whilst there's limited further information that I can share, I will take a few questions.
Say that the police neutralised the threat. Did the police kill the offender?
I do not have that information.
Was the offender wearing an ankle bracelet, and if so, how were they able to get into that building with a pump-action shotgun?
I'm not able to share any information about the identity or the details of the individual shooter. Obviously, police are working to confirm information, and as soon as they're in a position to share that information, they'll do that.
The two other people that were killed, do you know whether they were civilians or police officers?
My understanding is civilians at this point.
Can I just confirm, I know you say there's no national security risk, but given that the gunman is dead, was it an act of terror? Is that what motivated the shooting? So
my understanding from the advice that we've received so far is that there was no identified political or ideological motivation for the shooting, and therefore no national security risk.
Was the gun licensed?
I'm not in a position to be. Obviously, at the moment, the regime is not for gun licensing; it is for the individual to have a license, and police will be working to confirm details about whether the individual had a gun license.
Did he work at the construction site?
Is there any?
I don't have that information, Brent.
Given where the shooting took place, is there any sense it was the result of an employment or contractual dispute that might have?
Don't have any information about what the actual motivation was, other than that the police have not identified any, ideological or political motivation for this. As soon as they're in a position to share more information, I'm sure that they will do that. Just on the CBD itself, the advice that we've had from police is that they'll be looking to narrow the cordon as quickly as they can to get the CBD back up and running now that the threat has been removed. Luke.
Today's FIFA World Cup events, they're all going to go ahead as per.
Yes, they are. We've got the Minister for Sport here if you've got further questions about that, but we have been in regular contact with FIFA. They are proceeding as planned. There'll be an increased police presence, obviously, around Auckland to provide public reassurance, but the police have indicated that they don't think there is an ongoing security or safety risk.
Have you had any conversations with any world leaders? I mean, the teams that are here, is there any concern that any players, any teams might pull out or not want to stay as a result of what's happened?
I might ask the Minister for Sport to come and comment on the conversations that he's had with the FIFA organisers, who obviously will be in more of a position to share details on that. I've not, at this point, it's obviously only a few hours old, I haven't had any communications from other world leaders.
Yeah, thanks, Prime Minister. I've spoken this morning to the President and Secretary-General of FIFA. They passed on, firstly, their condolences to all those impacted by the incident this morning, and indeed to all New Zealanders. As the Prime Minister's already said, the tournament will go on and tonight's game will be played. The FIFA organisers, the police are already, up until this point, have been embedded within the FIFA organisational structure as just part of the normal organisation of the tournament, so there is very close cooperation there. There are a number of teams, as you'll be aware, who were staying in the immediate area. They are all safe and sound, and as the cordon moves in, they will go about the normal business of today for them. For some of them, that involves playing this evening. For others, that involves moving to other locations in New Zealand to play their games. So they will, in the course of the next few hours, do what they were always going to do, go to training, go to play, and so on.
Do you know how many teams were within that cordon and have been impacted?
I'm aware of one team that was in a hotel that was immediately around the corner from the building, and obviously it's downtown Auckland and pretty much all of the hotels have people associated with the tournament. I beg your pardon? Oh, I'm not going to go into that now.
And those in that sort of general area of that has been evacuated, that's going to open as scheduled?
Obviously that's up to the police as they reduce the cordon, but yes, you're correct, the fan zone is there, plus some other people who are involved in the organisation of the tournament. Obviously, once the police move to reduce the cordon, they will definitely return.
Minister, do you have any detail about the condition of the 6 people who were injured?
I haven't got any further detail other than what the ambulance teams have provided so far publicly.
We've already seen images of one police officer, which looks like to the face from an uneducated viewpoint. Do you have any more details about how many of those 6 are injured police officers?
Not that I don't have any confirmed information that I can share on that. The Police Commissioner, as I've indicated, I think he may even be in Auckland by now. He was relocating directly to Auckland, and we'll be doing an update later in the morning from Auckland, so he'll be the first to be able to provide more detailed police information.
Still plan on critically injured and 3 moderately injured, is that correct?
That's certainly that's what I've seen from the statements that have been issued by the ambulance staff, and I haven't got anything to add to the statements that they've made.
Will you still be attending tonight's opening game?
Obviously, I'll keep that under review depending on how the situation unfolds.
So, do you know?
Sorry, yeah.
Given everything that you know so far, do you think there's any way this could have been prevented?
I don't have any information to form a judgment on that at this point.
But do you know whether the 2 deceased were construction workers or whether they were people going to work in the CBD?
I don't have any information on that at this point.
Is there any more information you have about the shooter that you can share?
No, sorry.
Do you know whether this incident has any connection to the Albany stabbing incident?
As I've indicated, there's no national security factor that's been identified here.
And can you just confirm whether you're unable to share details of whether the shooter was in an ankle bracelet or whether we simply don't know that at this stage?
I'm not in a position to share any information about the offender. Police will be in the best position to be able to share the information that they have been able to confirm, hopefully later on this morning. But that's ultimately a matter for police because it is an active police investigation.
Do you know whether the loved ones and family of the deceased have been informed yet?
I haven't got that information yet.
Is there any delay in police getting there? It's 11 minutes.
The police Eagle helicopter was pretty much immediately dispatched, was en route within 3 minutes of the call being received. The on-the-ground police arrived within 11 minutes, the armed defenders squad within 4 minutes after that. On arriving, I'm advised that the police heard gunshot. The police first on the scene were hearing gunshots as they arrived on the scene. And as I say, I want to acknowledge the bravery of New Zealand police who walked directly into that.
On a diplomatic level, Prime Minister, have you made any phone calls this morning, or have you left that to the High Commissioner level to liaise and reassure with some of the countries that have got teams here?
Yeah, the whole New Zealand diplomatic apparatus will obviously be sharing information as we can confirm it, including they will immediately be sharing with others around the world the fact that we haven't identified a national security, an ideological or a political motivation here.
What is the AOS? I know that there's been debate about the location of that specialist service. Given that it was in the CBD, obviously they were able to get there quicker. Does this make you and perhaps the police minister rethink some of the allocation of those resources?
I think it's just too early to even speculate on those sorts of things. Jo?
This is a horrific incident on any day, but obviously it's a world stage day for us and a lot of eyes on us. Can you just give us a run through of your reaction when you first heard about this, when you heard about it, how you heard about it, and what went through your head?
So I was at the airport. I was heading to Hamilton today to make an announcement, which my ministerial colleagues are now doing. So the first reports arrived not long after I'd arrived at the airport. I tried to confirm as much information as I could whilst at the airport, made the decision to come back here to the Beehive so that I could get a detailed briefing directly from the police. Obviously, my first initial reaction was concern for anybody who was at risk. I know from my from my work with them as Minister of Police, that when these things happen, the entire Blue whānau feel this. And so in any incident like this, where police are in harm's way and where any police may have been injured, obviously that is a huge concern, and that is something that I think all New Zealanders will feel. We rely on our police, our frontline police, to put themselves in harm's way to keep us safe. And when any incident like this happens, I think that we will all feel that, and we will all, I guess, send our love and support to the New Zealand Police, who are doing an amazing job.
Was that your call, a gut decision, that you needed to come back and get a briefing?
Yes.
And to those who are visitors to New Zealand, who may be here for the first time, and guests in Auckland, what is your message to them about this?
That the risk has been contained. New Zealand is welcoming World Cup. Obviously, this has been a very grim morning for us, but we are committed to hosting this tournament. There is no ongoing risk here. The police have not identified any ongoing risk. We will have a very active police presence to provide that reassurance.
And to New Zealanders who are watching this unfold, this feels very foreign. This doesn't happen much here in New Zealand, and feeling quite unsafe about it. So what is your message to them?
My message to them is follow the guidance of the police. The police were very rapidly on the scene. The police have contained this situation. All New Zealanders will feel for the victims in this case. We will all feel for the New Zealand Police. It's too early to form other judgments about it. Let's get the details. Let's understand exactly what's happened here first.
On a personal level, this looks like it's getting you, it's hitting you. Why is that? Is it the police involvement? Is it that it feels so foreign? Can you talk to me about that?
I think any situation where innocent people have lost their lives is something that should upset political leaders, and it should upset New Zealanders.
Is gun violence on the rise here?
I don't want to get into the wider political situation at the moment. Obviously, there'll be plenty of time for wider commentary about it. Right now, I think our message needs to be of condolence to the victims and to their family, of support to the New Zealand Police, and of a reassurance that the public are safe, that the police have this situation under control.
So what does the timeline of the rest of today look like? Well, when can we expect to hear from the Commissioner, from maybe yourself again, as the day goes on?
As I've indicated, the Police Commissioner was in Christchurch, I believe, this morning, and is headed directly to Auckland. I'll be heading up to Auckland shortly, as will the Minister of Police. As the Minister of Sport will be continuing his ongoing liaison with FIFA, and will be heading up to make sure that all of the arrangements for tonight are well taken care of. As soon as the Commissioner of Police is in a position to share more information, I know that he's committed to doing that, and he'll be the right person to brief on behalf of the police, or anybody who he chooses to delegate to do that. So they will be in a position to share on more information about what is obviously a very active and very high-profile police investigation.
So there might be a minute's silence or anything at the game tonight?
There are conversations taking place now about how best to acknowledge what has happened. Last question, Claire. Yeah.
Have you had any information on whether the style of compact action shotgun was one of the banned guns, or a gun that isn't banned under the reforms?
No, I haven't. I did ask a few questions about the nature of the shotgun. There are some pump-action shotguns that could still be legitimately purchased. I don't have information on whether the firearm in question falls into that category or into the category of one of the banned weapons. I haven't got that information.
Be further look at the gun reforms and see whether anyone...
It's just too early to tell at this point. Thanks, everybody.
So we have just heard from Prime Minister Chris Hipkins there live from Wellington. He says with deep sorrow that he could confirm that 2 people had been killed at the serious incident here that's unfolded in Auckland CBD this morning. 6 people have been injured, including police. He did reconfirm that there is no national security risk. That was also confirmed in a recent police statement that was released not long ago. The Prime Minister said the offender was armed with a pump-action shotgun and moved through the building site, discharging the weapon. He said that his understanding was that the 2 people that died were civilians. The 3rd person was the gunman. His understanding is that there was no identified political or ideological motivation for the shooter, and as such there was no need to change the national security risk. That from Prime Minister Chris Hipkins, who we just heard from. We've been down here from about just before 8 o'clock this morning in Auckland CBD as a serious incident unfolded. Since then, there's been a police cordon and armed police have remained in place. Just in the last 10 minutes or so, they've started moving some of the police cars off the street. We had up to probably around 30 police cars blocking the road here from this morning, so now just a few of them starting to move off. On the FIFA Women's World Cup, which of course kicks off today, the Prime Minister said that it would continue as planned with the opening game at Eden Park tonight. We know that a number of the teams are actually staying in some of the hotels around this area. We did hear from the Team USA this morning. They confirmed that they would be going ahead with their day as planned and that their staff and their players were all safe. So we've seen a number of international media even down here this morning as well that have all come over to cover the World Cup, and of course didn't expect to be reporting on such a incident like they did here this morning. Now the Prime Minister was actually on his way to Hamilton this morning for an announcement when he was diverted back to Wellington. We just heard from him there recently. He was diverted back and he was briefed by officials before doing that stand up. He tried to confirm as much information as he could. Obviously we're still waiting for some more updates. We are expected to hear from police later this afternoon. In their most recent statement that they issued, they said that 3 people died here this morning. 1 included the gunman that the Prime Minister also confirmed in his press conference this morning. Britomart is Auckland Transport's hub. Thousands of workers are based here in offices in the area, and this morning, another a weekday morning, it was very busy. We had commuters and people coming in to work, and so as you can imagine there was a huge amount of a massive crowd and public here this morning, confused at what was going on. Public have moved off since then as the cordons have been put in place, but a huge disruption as well to traffic this morning too. The buses, the trains, even the ferries were cancelled at one stage. I do believe the number of that the ferries are back running now as well. But with roads closed around the area and this cordon in place, it's still disrupting a lot of the buses that usually come in through Britomart. So just to kind of recap what's happened here this morning, there was a serious incident, a gunman here in one of these buildings behind us that is actually under construction at the moment. 2 people have been killed and the gunman has been shot as well. When we came down here at around 8 o'clock, we heard a number of gunshots in quick succession. We then saw an injured police officer taken away in an ambulance, so a number of injuries as well this morning. So in the last 10-15 minutes some police cars have started moving off. There's still a cordon in place, but it seems that police are slowly trying to pull this cordon in a bit tighter as well so that they can start opening some of the roads up around the area. So just to recap, we've just heard from the Prime Minister as well. He wasn't able to give too much more information than what we already knew from the police, but we will be keeping you up to date throughout the day as we know more, and we will be hearing from police later this afternoon.